Welcome to AI Unscripted, where we talk about the hottest topics in the AI, data analytics, and automation world. And today, Ahmed and I will talk about agentics, the one and only topic that appears to be making itself out into the world, unless, of course, you're talking about processors, but we're not. Ahmed, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit more about your background and your company, please?
Sure. Thank you, Kieran, for having me on your show. I'm a big fan of your content. It always is helpful and pragmatic. I like it. Um, so I am the Chief Automation Officer here at Accelerate. I also take the CEO role, but I like going by the Chief Automation Officer title. And because I'm a techie at heart, I started my career as a test automation engineer. So what we call today as RPA used to be called back in the day as test automation, UI automation of test cases. And so I've been doing this for a little bit. Accelerate is a specialized firm that focuses very heavily on process automation. And I look at process automation really in a sort of continuum of integrate application integration and data processes, right? These are sort of the three big thing: workflow, application integration, and data processes. So we kind of cover all three of those things. And I think with about 500 people across the globe, we've done decent. So thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to our conversation.
Alrighty. So you noticed a small tear in my eye forming when you mentioned test automation back in the day of images of Selenium as I was coding failing. So we better move on quickly. So,
Absolutely.
what's happening in the world of automation in general?
That's actually really interesting. I think there are a few trends that I am seeing, which I think are notable. And by the way, I'll bring you back into testing too on this one. The interesting thing, look, everybody's talking about agents, right? I think that is a sort of the next evolution of the Gen AI sort of chat interface to get stuff done type of a conversation that has sort of been taken over the conversation in the past couple of years, I'd say, right? So everybody is talking about how do I apply an agentic model to automation, and everybody uses the same sort of words. What's the agency that we give to these new agents, and what can they do, and so on and so forth. I think so. To the question of what's going on in the automation world, it's still everybody's still talking about automation. We still need automation. There's tons of manual processing in automation. But what I think has happened is um, the it's yet to be seen. Uh, in my opinion, the whole chatbot era was a failed experiment, right? The chatbots never took off. I still hate talking to a chatbot, a traditional chatbot. It was like, okay, you just put another UI on top of your application and calling it a chatbot. I think the agents, the LLMs and the generative AI agents can be very intelligent. However, they still don't have the arms and the legs to do the things that they think up, and sometimes they mess up in what they think should be done. So I think there's a lot of conversation around how to control this intelligent, quote unquote, intelligent being that we have now created. But I do think the folks who are the doers are still focused on, hey, that's great, another tool in my toolbox. I'm going to incorporate that into my solutioning and see if this type of a solution applies to the type of automation that I'm trying to do. I think we've tried to do that in the past. We're going to give these things to citizen developers, or we're going to give them, the citizen developers, the tools to do it. I think they're saying, no, that's not going to work. Why don't we now see if they can do this in plain language, allow them some ability to create their own agents. But I think what will be more successful will be sort of specific agents designed with context, and as they say, context grounded in the business process that is trying to be automated, created by the professionals who are creating automations, and then being handed over to the business to say, go ahead and please use this. It's a much better solution than the previous human in the loop type of things. Most of the things that you do here are still chunks of what you used to have in an automation. Take a document, extract some data out of it. It doesn't match what you have to do. Give it to the human and tell them, please press a button on this screen and say, yes, this is good. Now you're going to say, please say yes if this looks okay, right? So I think that's kind of happening in the automation world as we traditionally think about process automation. But it's really what's also very interesting is people have talked about how do you automate a process. I have two systems, I got to integrate them, I got to workflow, I got to do this, I got to do that. But what is very interesting, and this is how it ties back into testing, is getting to that point hasn't changed. The paradigm of software development is find the thing that you're trying to do, create the requirements, create a solution, then go build that solution. We've talked about build that solution quite extensively. What's really interesting is, and a little bit of it happened in the process mining world, automation is being applied to those parts of creating automations. I think what's happening in the automation world is it's getting faster to create automations, but also we're now using these tools to create automations much faster. So, for example, I am now using generative AI agents to create process definition documents in hours instead of days. The tedious task of, so I'm automating my own business analyst. So that I think it's kind of very meta, right? So automation to automate is really interesting. But that's kind of I'm seeing that, and that's how it goes into testing. I started my testing careers more years than I would like to admit because it'll give away my age. Not that the white hair and the beard don't, but um, for the past 40 years, if you talk to any group that does testing, they'll tell you the same thing. What happens? Requirement comes in, we review the requirements, we improve them, we write the test cases, we write the test scripts, then we give the test script to someone to automate, right? What's happening is before the last step that I mentioned, all of that is being automated. I just saw, I just came from the UiPath conference, saw the keynote on Salesforce conference. They all talk about agents, right? But the test suite product, that was exactly the same thing. It's like, hey, listen, anybody can automate. As you said, Selenium has been around for 20, 30, 25, 30 years, right? We've been doing this for a while. So if I go out there and say, hey, I can also automate, whoop-de-doo. But if you go out there and say, hey, listen, I can now analyze your requirement, tell you it's incomplete, and actually give you a suggestion on what that requirement should look like. And by the way, once you're done, taking a look at your user manual and the wireframes that you just made, I'm going to write the test cases, both positive and negative. And by experience, I can tell you, we've done this, that those are generally more holistic and more comprehensive than what people do. So it always comes back more comprehensive, negative test cases that people hadn't thought of, the scenarios that people hadn't thought of, it comes up with those things. And then also create the script, the manual script, the steps on how to test it. Then use generative AI to generate the code out of that. So
Well, tell me this here then. Why can't we just keep going then? Because it's done the scripting, done the coding, done the documentation, designed the test, positive, negative, monkey test, whatever you want to call it. Then it could generate synthetic data, run it through the pipes, and then come back with a result. So now we've got rid of all of our testers.
So you're absolutely right, but I do think that as smart as these agents are, there's sometimes you need adult oversight, right? It's you
As
absolutely
many adults?
That's the whole point. That is absolutely right. That is the whole point. I have seen through experience that we can cut down 30 to 60% of the manual labor efforts in any QA group, on both sides, right? On the manual side of creating the test cases and the data and the scenarios and the scripts, and the actual development of the automation itself, because that's faster too. I spoke about this a while ago. Even the Wall Street Journal had an article. And in fact, Phil from HFS recently posted the growth numbers for the largest GSIs in the world, and you'll see that most of them do development work, right? They're saying that their growth is going down because people are getting hip to the point that they're like, oh yeah, I know you're using some sort of GPT type thing to generate code. The estimate that you gave me that this thing is going to take 18 months to do should really be more like a year to do, right? So
Maybe just chuck more GPUs at that. Can I go back one as well, if you don't
yeah, go
mind?
ahead, please.
Like you don't. I say this nicely. You don't need to convince me about test automation. I just look. God help the testers. You don't need as many, but that's a logical
Absolutely.
sequence of something. So off you go. You mentioned about and I'll put words in your mouth that you never said, which is we're not going to give automation to the kids. We're going to keep it with the adults. And you believe that automation should be done by the professional software engineers. Here's my only one challenge to that, and we'll not disagree too violently.
Mm-hmm.
There's 10 times as many managers and business people in the world as there is coders, maybe 20.
Got it.
Why do we keep automating or providing tools for developers? Why are we not providing tools for the group that's 20 times bigger?
Got it. No, I look. I think if you go back to it, right? If you actually go back to it, let's go back to what a process automation, what automation in the enterprise really entails, right? You have systems integration, you have workflow and data. And unfortunately, because and don't forget, I'm gonna repeat what they told me in UiPath conference. I'm not sure, of the validity of this number, but the
I was going to
analyst.
say other vendors are available.
Analysts say there are 175 legacy systems in an enterprise. Just
Is that all?
175.
That's my morning.
Absolutely. So these systems are still talking legacy languages. We're trying to put another layer on top of it, and eventually you still get back till. So what gives me a lot of hope this time around is you're not dependent upon the coding style, the thought process of a human. For happy paths are perfectly fine. Trust me, happy paths everyone can automate, and they should. That's not where the problem is. Why do you need the pros? Because happy paths aren't as frequent as you think they are. Number one, people, it happens to us all the time. You go into a meeting and they'll say, oh, this only happens only a few times. You throw that automation out in production, you go, 30% of your cases are the thing you said only happens a few times. It's like, oh, we didn't realize it was that frequent. So the reason why they use pros is because they build resilient automations, right? This time around I have a little bit more hope, right? That what we've been trying to do is we've been trying to dumb down what a developer does and say we're going to make it sound easier for the business to do. But I think this time around the language is natural language. This is different. This is really different, right? This is not, I am not worrying that a business user will not know the difference between a string and an int and a boolean. That we tried to do that. We wouldn't say booleans, we call them yes nos. We're like, all right, great, now it's not a boolean, it's a yes no field, right? But the idea was you were still dependent upon the business users to have these concepts that were very inherently development concepts, exception handling, retries, and things like that we did to make these things resilient. So that's number one. This time around is different. You're absolutely right that why don't we give it to the people there? That's great. The other problem that I've always seen is it's a catch-22. The reason why I want to automate is because I have a lot of work, but I need to take time out of that work to actually automate it. I have seen so many half-done automations by people that they go, I just don't have time to finish it because I'm doing all of this other stuff. So that's number two. Number three, that's actually
well, let me take that one and then you can do number three.
Yeah.
But I've seen this so many times and I've built so many citizen innovation programs. Everybody lets everybody in who's got half an interest in low code technology, rather than selecting the right individual and then making sure that literally they have the time to do it. If they don't, just don't let them in.
Absolutely. No, I think it's a management problem as well. You're absolutely right. They think they're going to give everybody the tools and everybody will have the motivation and they will just make the time to do it. That's the logistical and management, people management aspect of it, which is absolutely is a point. The third thing that I'm seeing in this, so I think it's a paradigm shift, right? So we went from writing code to low code to now natural language as code. But even then, why I am excited, to be very honest, is Accelerate, because we create automations and we, at the end of the day, system integrations, right? The LLMs don't have what they call the tools to do the thing. Even if you tell it, I process invoices in SAP, and it's very smart. It knows what an invoice fields are. It may even know what SAP screen to process an invoice looks like. It just doesn't have a way to access that SAP screen. Right? And next time there's an API update, somebody needs to go and update that. 1999, 2000, we were talking about, oh, there's going to be this SOAP registry and there's going to be automatic discovery, and you're going to be able to just go and say, oh, I have an API for this and I have an API for this, and it's just going to magically all come together. We're still struggling with that. I mean, I have systems that were built 10 years ago that don't have proper APIs to do things that you need to do. It's like, how do you not have APIs to do this? You were born yesterday. It's not like you're a mainframe and you didn't think these things didn't exist when you were writing the app. So what I think is what's going to be really more important is going to be creating, and these are micro things, right? These are small. So get a record from somewhere, go and update this thing in some application, whether it be API or UI, whatever that is. There's going to be a gold rush for pick and axe manufacturers, right? We're going to be making the picks and axes that all of these LLMs are going to use to do the work that they have now figured out that they need to do. Right? At the end of the day, they are smart enough to figure out what needs to be done, but that what needs to be done needs a tool. And if they don't have that, and that tool is very specific to the environment that you're in, the system that you're interacting with, the domain that you're in, so on and so forth. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for the pros, if you may.
Yeah. You're so disappointed me there, and I say that tongue in cheek, because surely all these manufacturers who are telling me this is so easy and that the world is going to be transformed by next Thursday, 2 p.m. UK, is not real. But you could argue a little bit. It's quite funny, because you could say, is RPA a paradigm? In other words, let's use UI because we don't have APIs. But the good news is, Ahmed, someone came to me recently, I'll not advertise their company, and they went, I've now got a low-code tool that allows me to create APIs by pointing and clicking and doing everything. So you don't have to worry about a lack of APIs. But this is the exciting bit about the world of automation. As you said earlier on, look, we're still talking about automation. These are different tools and flavors and whatever else. Been around 30 years, be around 50 years. I actually am a huge fan that if we can take the most complicated and break it down into something smaller, go for it. Now I can use an accounting program and don't need an accountant, really-ish, to do my business accounts. The same should be true of coding. Although, like everything, I go to my accountant for all the important stuff. The rest of it, yeah, I can just about manage that. Agentics is exciting. I don't think it's the perfect answer for anything.
No, absolutely.
No technology is. But the good news is you and I will still be employed for the next numbers of years, sir, doing a lot of things that other people aren't willing to do and aren't capable to do. Ahmed, you and I could spend all day talking, and we will.
Absolutely. But I do have to do one thing, though.
Tell me one thing then before we go.
You said all these vendors are telling me this is so easy to do. Takes me back really to 2001.
I'm too young. I must have seen this on YouTube, maybe.
the Mercury rep that sells test automation software came into us and said, you know what? You don't need coders. You don't even need your testers. The BAs are going to be able to do da-di-da-di-da and then write the test cases, and it'll be coded. In 2006, I had my company. I staffed 30 Mercury automation engineers for a customer, along with 30 BAs. So, the history.
Are you suggesting that a vendor came in and told you something that might not have been strictly true? Well, the good news is we've moved on from that world, or not.
Until
remember the day you were told that 50 robots equals transformation? I think we should do it. I did a thing a couple of years ago. It said, are you on the Christmas naughty list? And I listed all the things that vendors had told me. And just to be transparent, all the things that I had said, including using the word democratization, I look back with much regret. Ahmed, I don't regret a moment of our interview, and I'm sure no one else will. If people want to find out a little bit more about you and the company, where do they go?
Accelerate.com. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. Ahmed Zaidi, look me up. My name's right there. And connect with me on LinkedIn. Be happy to chat. Thank you very much, Kieran. Really appreciate being on with you.
Fantastic. Alrighty. Best wishes, everybody. Please do connect. This is part of the fun where we hear from great experts and then we go connect, then go follow, and then learn some more. Appreciate you. Thank you so much indeed.